On this episode, I have in studio Peter Vazquez, host of the Next Step Show on the WYSL stations. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the podcaster. The content of some podcasts might be of adult nature and contain adult language. This episode may not be safe for work or office environments. And now, on to the show. And hello once again, and thank you for downloading and listening to Just an Old Guy with a Mic podcast. I am your host, Fred Selber, aka Stryker, and today's record date is the 2nd of August, and this is episode, I think it's going to be episode either, I didn't put the episode in here, it's either, I want to say 203. Let's put that in there, and then we'll go from there. But as you heard, I do have an in-studio guest. But before I get to that real quick, like I always do, we have, like I always say, I always give a plug for WYSL. I feel very comfortable with the folks over there. So I say advertise with WYSL if you have a small business or you have an organization that you want to get out the word about your organization, a special event for that, or you have a small business or a business, call 585-346-3000. And I guarantee you somebody by the name of Bob will answer. So let them know that you want to advertise, and that's how you do that. Also, a shout out to whoever is in the, who's ever in England that listen to me. If you're going to be a repeat person coming back, thank you very much, and you're more than welcome. I love seeing that we get people from all over the world, actually. And thank you to everybody that listens to the podcast through WYSL1040.com, their podcast page. So I hope I do a good enough job that's going to keep you coming back and listening. So as you heard from the intro to the show, I have a guest in studio, and I use studio because this is a room in my house where I record. Mr. Peter Vazquez, the host of the Next Step Show on the WYSL WLEA stations. So, Peter, welcome.
Thank you for the invite. I'm excited to be here, although this looks like a studio to me. Put up some paneling. It's like we're in YSL.
I know. I need the big sign behind me. So, the thing is, I just wanted to, I want to have you on, and I listen to your show. As you know, I interact with you on I think it's Facebook that I use, because that's the easiest format that I can interact with you. Yeah. So
I wish I could find a way to interact with all the, because we're on like 7 or 8 different media, social media platforms, and the platform that I use to do that puts it out on all of them only allows me to see Facebook and I think Twitter maybe, but I know I get comments all over the place. So
okay, yeah, no, I hear you say that all the time, that you're up on several different platforms. So that's actually, it's pretty cool that you're able to do that. So real quick, I'm going to ask you some, I wanted to just kind of ask some personal questions before we get into to some of the things in the news. So where did you grow up?
Oh man, I grew up right here in Rochester, New York, born and bred. Right over at Rochester General is where I was born, and right on Norton Street, Coleman Street, Clinton Avenue. If I remember correctly, my parents, when I was born, were living over by where Frederick Douglass junior school used to be. I don't know if it's still there anymore, but over on the east side of the city, near Fernwood area. Man, listen, I grew up. There is not a spot in the city of Rochester, or really most of the county of Monroe, that I haven't walked, rode on a bike, drove my car. I thought I was a gangster for about 30 seconds, kind of stuff. But no, right here, this is my home. This is my roots.
That's good. I grew up in the 10th Ward.
Okay.
Over by Aquinas.
Yep.
So I just like you, I was born here, raised here, did everything here. The only time I was living away from here was in the military.
And same here, for the most part. I did, because of the military, though, I did kind of venture out here and there. But for the most part, as much as I kept saying, I'm never going back to that place, I end up.
You always come back. I know. So how long? So you do have a show, Next Step show, over on WYSL.
Phenomenal show, best station ever, by the way.
It is great. When I walked in through those doors the first time, I was kind of nervous, and then I met Bobby D, and I met Dr. Bob.
Roberto Kragig Sabaje, see?
And they made me feel comfortable, and they have worked with me, because I do advertise on the station, and I've always felt comfortable working with them. So how long have you been with them?
Oh man, I think I'm either over 5 years or at 5 years, give or take. I mean, I'm over 500 shows now, and the cool thing about it, you mentioned they make you feel welcomed, and Bob Savage, the owner of the station, I call him the voice of liberty because obviously it's the station, it's his tagline and so forth. But that's what I feel when I'm there, though, and that's one of the reasons why when I even consider like doing something different, and every once in a while, not so much, but once in a great while, I'm like, boy, can you imagine not having to think every day about, putting together a show and I can just hang out and go home and have a beer and smoke a cigar. But then I hear, one of the other shows on YSL, or I'll hear the news from one of the Bobs, and I'm like, that's just home to me.
Yeah.
That being able to share the truth, especially como un Latino, right? Being able to show and discuss those American values, that God, country, family, things that made us. Talk about unity in a real way. That's what keeps me doing the show every day, every single day.
Yeah, your show's on noon to 1.
Yes.
And Monday through Friday, and a lot of times I can't interact because I'm busy at work. That's whether it just depends. But when I'm interacting with you, just know that it's a little bit of downtime, and I consider that my lunchtime.
Well, I appreciate it.
So
every once in a while, I try to start off and thank everybody for spending their lunchtime with me, because that is, that's our time, right? When we're hanging out at work, busy day, you want to eat, you want to socialize. And I'm grateful for those people like yourself that have taken the time to say, no, wait a minute, I'm gonna listen to this show. But it's all about dialogue. It's all about being able to engage. And the thing is, we live in a time that we've been, my term, bamboozled, right? Where we've been just tricked into believing things. And unless we start talking more and taking the time during our lunches and in the evenings, because not only are they lying to us, they being those people like Hocus Pocus and the buffoon, right? But they also have created an environment that have taken good people like you and I and have made it so difficult for us to live that fighting back is almost like, where's the time for that?
Exactly. I know I get frustrated a lot. And I watch The Blaze, Glenn Beck's his platform. And we watch Sarah Gonzalez in the morning. I watch the first half hour of her before I scoot off to work.
Nice.
And my wife comes out and she's having her coffee, and she'll be on whatever subject it is, and we're both kind of looking at each other, agreeing. We're like, yeah, that's exactly right. So, and I hear that on your show. I mean, you cover topics, and people are. I think the whole idea behind your show, and I say that here on this podcast, listen to us, but make up your own mind.
Yep.
And go out and look the information up yourself. If I can look the information up on whatever the subject is, you can look the information up.
Well, the first step to recovery is acceptance, is accepting that there's a problem, whether it's yourself, whether it's outside, whatever it is. You got to accept that there's something that needs to be changed. And that's what I'm hoping my show can spark in people. And then, with that, like in our mission statement, right, is to be able to create this balance in an individual with face politics and entrepreneurship. And I say this because, unless we have that balance and know what it means, it's not enough to say, I'm a Republicano or a Democrat, or it's not enough to say I'm a entrepreneur. What does that mean to you? Because check it out, man. If you wake up in the morning, right, and you say, today I'm worth something, you are your first and own corporation. So we're all entrepreneurs. Why can't we understand that? Which is a topic that I really want our listeners, your listeners, all our listeners to truly embrace, because government can mess with people, especially that are grounded in God, country, and family. They just can't. The Constitution was made for that, which is why they trick us, which is where Van Boozeness comes from.
Yeah, and my biggest thing, I do want to, because I'm getting ready to retire the end of 2026.
Lucky.
And, well, my thing is that I know what I want to do. And starting a business, my biggest part of starting a business is the taxes, because you always hear about so-and-so, it becomes a news, for the news cycle. Yeah. It becomes part of the news, and, so-and-so, and then it's a popular business didn't pay their taxes or didn't do this. And that's my biggest fear about starting a business, because I'm like, man, I don't want to deal with the taxes. And, it would be myself, but I would be reaching out to other folks.
I was just telling somebody this morning that, that it's sad that our society has become, or really what it is, but has gotten to the point where we have to have people thinking this is a free society. Since when did the government's payment, right, that we have to give them those taxes, become more important than growth? Now I think we all have to pay our fair share. Absolutely. Right. Don't get me wrong. I agree with it. However, when those taxes become so stifling that a good person like yourself, a veteran, has to think twice about starting a business and potentially putting other people to work, I mean, who's winning there?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's dumbfounding to me.
Yeah.
So listen, I take risks. And every once in a while, the IRS will get mad at me about something. And I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, man. And I got you. I'll take care of you. But it should never be like that. Yeah. Ever. That should never be the status quo. And it is. It's what it's become.
Yeah. And it like you said, there are folks that want to go out and want to, not just start a business, but it has the potential for helping out the community.
Well, homeownership.
Yep.
How can you possibly call homeownership prosperity when the government's constantly got their foot on your throat with their taxes? And when, listen, I'm in housing. I see it every day. Uh-huh. When an elderly person comes into an office for help because the only reason they fell behind was because the spouse passed away, right? And it took them a little while between the grieving period and kind of figuring things out, because in some cases that was that spouse that passed away that took care of stuff. Uh-huh. So and all of a sudden they're losing their house. Yeah. And there's nothing to help with tax return.
Yeah. Yeah. And this house that I'm in right now, next year I will have it paid off. Yeah. Well, I'll have the mortgage paid off.
That's it.
I'm still paying taxes on this place.
And you could never pay it off.
No. You just, so I forgot where it may have been Glenn Beck. He said for the first, if you have a 30-year mortgage, the first 20 years, you're renting from the bank. Mm-hmm. The last 10 years, you're paying off the actual principal of the mortgage. And then he said after that, you are renting from the state, county, whatever taxes you have to pay on the property. So, and I've always thought that was, and like you, I understand it. I want, if I have a problem here, I want to be able to get on, call 911 and have the Ogden Police Department show up here.
Absolutely.
Or the Ogden Fire Department show up here, or an ambulance show up here. And I understand that's where part of your taxes go for. During the winter, I like to see the plow go, as much as I get upset because he dumps snow at the end of my driveway. Mm-hmm. But the plow goes by and he makes it so that the roads are passable. So I get the idea behind taxes, but I think,
well, that would be your ROI. The problem is that the return on investment isn't matching the cost. And it seems to be coming tighter. I'll give you an example. In the city of Rochester, right? You're a property owner. You rent. Let's say you decided to put your single-family residence. You're going to keep them at fair market rate. You want to do good by the people who live there and provide a nice home to families. And now all of a sudden, city policy says, oh, wait a minute. Now you also have to plow your own front yard, your own, the sidewalk in front of your house, right? Right. And I'm thinking, this came out a while ago. This is back when we owned properties in the city. And I remember thinking, wait a minute, you guys just spent a bunch of money on sidewalk cleaners. My taxes went up. What are they paying for? Yeah. And why would I want to pay now, yet on top of all that, another person, because I can't go physically shovel all the, so now I got to pay somebody to do that so that somebody can live there comfortably. But I didn't get into that business so that somebody else can live there comfortably while I'm broke because I got to pay that bill.
Right.
It just doesn't make any, that ROI, there's not a match. And that's the problem that we have, in my opinion, with the tax structure. I love what Trump's doing. You know what? You're elderly. You paid your dues. You shouldn't have to pay property taxes. You shouldn't also have to pay school taxes once your kids leaves high school. Can you imagine a system where it's running so efficient that it is spending money on the people that they're actually serving? I mean, it makes sense to me, but yet again, the government's the only government that can literally almost, I mean, not literally, but equivalent to take your firstborn. They can leave you in destitute while they're saying that they care about you, all because you owe them a few $100s or a few $1,000s in taxes. And don't go over $100,000 because, listen, you're in trouble. Anyways, I can go on a whole tangent. The whole thing with that is, that's not... I mean, I think another show from another radio had said that was, I can't remember the name, something along the lines of, we fought for against taxation without representation. Now we're being represented. We're just being taxed to heck, and those representatives are using those taxes to beat us over the head. Anyways.
Yeah. And you're 100% right. 100% right. So, from what I've taken it, do you own your own business? Or you just do the
right now I do a few things. Most of the show, the podcast stuff that I do, because I do podcasts for, kind of like what you're doing here. I just, help others get their podcasts launched. But no, a few years ago, I decided to take a job in a nonprofit. I wanted to do something, to kind of help effectuate change, in the housing industry, because I do believe that housing is critical. I think without it, nothing else really matters. If you don't have a place that you're proud to call home, right? The problem is the system is so the system is so set up to not help people but make people a lot of money. All right, that anytime you introduce something that makes sense, like an initiative that I recently launched, all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Like, what do you mean what I'm talking about? I'm calling you on your promise, Mr. Representative, or Mr. Legislator. You got a housing emergency, but that's all we have. I try to build property, and all of a sudden, and this is in the rural area where 96% of Americans live. Remember that. I mean, that's the reality. It's not in the urban centers where more than half of the money goes to. But these are urban centers that don't even see opportunity zones.
Right.
But because of the race issue, they also don't see the money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know.
That'll take us on a whole nother rabbit hole. I'm sorry. I'll stop talking so you can ask questions.
So, the one thing, I do know you ran for county clerk.
I did.
That was last year.
Yes.
Yep. And, you had 2 votes out of this house.
I appreciate that.
For that. I mean, it was just like, I started listening and I heard it. I know that guy. When I saw who was on the ballot, I know that guy. And then I heard what you had to say, and I'm like, it sounded a heck of a lot better than the person that's in there now. So, do you think you're ever going to run again for public office?
I never say no to anything. The things have got to make sense for the greater good, for the community at large, I guess. I saw an opportunity to run not only because, just the person there needs to be replaced. I'm sorry, the current clerk is nothing but a bobblehead, and it's pretty obvious. And she's not very, focused on constitutional rights or rights of the individuals. And when you got a building that's completely locked down and no pushback from even her, which, it's kind of like somebody was a pretty big voice and you don't hear her. Yeah, I think that somebody definitely needs to change that. Me, myself, I don't know. I will say this. There's a Christian song, and I can't remember the full title of it, but it goes, something like, if not who, then me, or something like that. I can't. I think it's maybe Casting Crowns. I don't remember. But that's always the take that I've always had. If someone's not going to step up, then I'll step up. If needed. However, you know where I stand. You hear my show. I hold accountable people that don't want to be held accountable, and that comes at a price. That comes at a cost. And one of the things that last run for county clerk showed me was was that politically here, especially in the Monroe County area, that there's really got to be a coming to Jesus moment. Within the party. And I think that we have an opportunity now to do it, but there definitely is lacking in that. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we don't see a lot of other qualified candidates stepping up saying, I'm going to run. I mean, listen, it's been the results have been falling 60-40 almost for a few decades now. I mean, you can look at the historic, it's almost fallen. I mean, that's just odd to me.
Yeah.
At least I know 40% of the people listening to us are like, hey, I like that guy, right? but when it's that way, election over election, when we're looking at the amount of people that have left the area, and most of them are Republican conservatives that are leaving the area, and the numbers don't change.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a little bit more vocal, but anyways.
And that's the thing that I've heard Larry Sharp talk about.
Yeah,
he talks WYSO. And I've interacted with his show on a couple times, and he, I can't, when I retire, I really do want to move out of New York State. And he's like, why?
I agree with him.
Articulate why. Well, high taxes. It's, there's so many regulations with my Second Amendment, right? Here in Monroe County, I think I remember the old days. I'd go to a gun shop. I'd get my, I'd pay the money for the handgun, and then I would take the, I guess it's called a tax stamp or whatever they called it, and I would take that down to Monroe County office, walk in, and walk up, get in line. There's usually a couple people ahead of you doing other business, and I'd say I have to add this to my pistol permit, hand them everything. They would type it up. They would say, okay, you're all set, and it was done. Now you got to make an appointment to do that.
Which is so bizarre to me.
Which is, I mean, even during COVID, I'm like, why are we doing this? And then they never got rid of it after COVID. So I think I think it's ridiculous.
Well, that's the Democrats' mantra. Remember, they don't believe in it's our house. They don't believe it's we the people. I mean, look, from the buffoon when he was in president, Obama did it too. Clinton did it where they locked down the White House. They locked down Congress. Or before Trump, they had fences around it like it was some kind of compound.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Democrat mentality, that whole, we believe in the Constitution so long as you do what we tell you to do.
Exactly.
And you can believe the Constitution in our way. Well, you know what? My father didn't leave Puerto Rico and work hard for freedom. My father owned a gun and a house for one major reason, because those two things signified freedom. When I got into politics, my father, he was scared. He said, there's only two people. Well, he said, first of all, there's only two kinds of people in Puerto Rico that carry a gun. That's your criminals and your politicians. Right? So when I got into politics, he ran for mayor. I think his life had been threatened. He was afraid that my life would be taken because the politics, from their perspective, has gotten pretty bad, and it has. Look at the city of Rochester, it's insane. But then you got a city council who says stupid things like, there's an uptick in Latinos. Get the hell out of here, dude. You're the one who's suppressing our community.
Yes.
It's just, it makes me sick.
Yeah, we're going back to WYSL, Jimmy Fela. I love what he says. You can be a Republican, you can be a Democrat, but don't be a bleep. My bleep button doesn't work. So you can be anything you want. Just don't be. And I know exactly what he means. You and I understand jackwagon.
Yeah.
Right. I mean that's like an FCC kind of compliant thing to say. But right. I mean, I've always said on this platform, articulate and be civil.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I believe Satan does tell you when he's around and what he's controlling, right? Mm-hmm. And when I look at the emblems, remember, emblem or symbolism plays a big role, in my opinion. And people usually have a way of telling them on themselves, especially criminals, right? So you look at, the emblems, the donkey and the elephant. What's a donkey, right? It's exactly what it is. And it's that way biblically, it's that way historically. And so it doesn't surprise me that party has taken that emblem, as their mascot, because that's really how they act. I mean, listen, I'm sorry. When you think that, when a group of individuals think that their philosophy outweighs that has been war tested, like the Republican philosophy, then you know what? It's you're just going on ego. You're not going on American values,
Right.
in my opinion. But again, I defended this country just like you did. Thank you for your service, by the way,
thank
and
you for yours.
that served as well. But all of us that served. Regardless of where we stand in the political structure, we serve so that we can protect that disagreement, so that we can have agreement for we the people in a balanced government.
Right.
But you know what? If unfortunately the other side of the aisle, Fred, has gotten so far to the other side that now we've got a Democrat candidate in New York City that's going to end up turning New York City very much like London, which is something that, can you imagine that guy at the lead of the ticket? Or the leader of the Democrat Party? Oh my God! I can't even fathom where we're going to be.
Yeah. No, I looked into Mr. What's his name, Mamdani. But he's on top of being he said that he's a does he say he's a practicing Muslim?
I think so. I'm not
something
sure.
along that. But
all I hear him saying is, "I'm anti-American." That's anything that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that he's an avowed socialist. He's an avowed communist, and that take a look at Russia. Take a look at Russia from the 1920s, the 1990s, and you'll see how that worked. Go ask somebody that grew up in that era and that during that time frame, and say, this guy wants to make city-owned grocery stores.
Yeah. It's not even that far back. You can look at Venezuela in our lifetime.
Yes.
Venezuela was the most recent shift from a pseudo-democracy to a full-on socialist, communist dictatorship type of government. And I mean, even Bob Savage talks about when he was there back in the day in Venezuela. I think he said he visited there, and you could see, right, the similarities between and the parallels between the Western world and there and now.
Oh yeah, ooh. It's very sad. It's very sad.
Cuba, same thing.
Cuba. My daughter-in-law is Cuban, and she has said on occasion, we talked about various things in Cuba, and she want to say she moved here with her folks to the States when she was about 6 years old, 6-ish, somewhere in there. So she remembers Cuba, but she was a little kid.
Right.
And the one thing that she now understands, at least this aspect, is that Castro, hey, let's arm everybody, Viva la Revolution, right? He was all, hey, let's go, Batista, let's get rid of that guy. And then the second that he was in power, we're going to take the guns back from you. Because he understood the power of the common person having a firearm. And all of a sudden you get, your 100,000 people going, you want us to do what?
Yeah.
And then they turn the guns on you. So he understood that real well. And, it's sad that we have people in this country that are along that mindset.
I've had people on my show. I've met quite a few people that actually felt or fought in that Revolutionary War against Castro in the very beginning. Some of them are older and aging, and a couple have passed. But even Luis Martinez, who's covered my show a couple of times, and the interviews that I've had with him, he ran for Senate. I mean, the stories that they share, they're like, listen, we didn't leave Cuba because we hated our country. We left for safety. And when we came to America, we came because we wanted a better life. We wanted an American life. We didn't forget we were Cuban. We just realized that we wanted to be Americans.
Yeah.
Not Cuban Americans, just Americans. Like my father always told me, see, you fly your bandera americana first. It's okay to fly your Puerto Rican flag, but you never forget where you are, who you are.
My wife, her dad is from Switzerland. He's
beautiful country.
He's passed. But on the 1st of August, she likes to put up the Swiss flag. But she doesn't, if you noticed, and I got to replace that flag. That flag is kind of beat up. But in my front yard, I fly the American flag. She flies it off the deck in the backyard. So she understands. She gets it. She is American first, but she is of Swiss heritage. Absolutely. So, and it's like myself, I'm on my dad's side of the family, I am 3rd generation American. And on my mother's side of the family, I'm about 5th, 6th generation American.
Okay.
So, I get it. I never got to meet my great grandfather. He died like 20 years before I was born. But and my dad used to tell me this all the time. His biggest thing was to be able to speak American English without his German accent.
Oh, wow.
And I would ask my dad, well, did he? And my dad would, it was Grandpa. I don't know, So, yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing is that, I think that's another thing about WISL is that it's, God and country.
Yes.
And they are, they're very, very patriotic and they're very supportive of veterans. So
very much so. And they're supportive of different ideas. I love getting into topics of race there sometimes. Bob's like, does it always have to be race? I'm like, no, it doesn't always have to be. But it is a very, a topic that's leading almost everything we're doing. But the reason why I bring that up is because, I grew up and I still hear it. Like, I'll hear it in some of my in-law kids. Things like, that's a white thing, right? Oh. And this is what, we hear growing up.
Right.
In the urban center in black and brown America, right? We hear these kind of things. So as I got older and I met people like Bob, because I've met others, just straight up grew up. They're like, what are you talking about? What does all that mean? And being on YSL or having these kind of discussions with people like you and our listeners, I think it's a great opportunity where people are listening and saying, oh, wait a minute, I get it. Because what do we see on TV now or the news? White bad, black and brown suppressed by the whites that are bad. I mean, you hear so. What do you expect? You look at rural America, like Yates County, for example, 99.8% white, right? And a lot of people. And listen, if all I'm hearing all day long is that I'm a jerk because some perceived thing that I'm like, well, of course I'm going to be standoffish,
right?
So I figured this because I was in one of these rural areas that told me that they didn't want my kind here. So instead of suing them like somebody would and paying off all my bills and my properties and being like, oh, I got them for, what, I decided to kind of embrace it and teach and come to realize they're like, well, wait a minute. This guy is about as conservative as I am or more. Right. This guy understands that money is green. It's not brown or black or white. This guy understood that the opportunities are there and that we live in a country that if we can dream it. And they were like, well, wait a minute. Not all Hispanics are what they say.
Yeah.
Or believe, it's insanity to me. Anyway.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right because people don't understand that. It's just like when I sold my house in the city 30 years ago, the neighbors that we'd had there, I mean, I'd lived there probably 12 years at the time because I moved in with my wife and her family. And right before we got married. And the neighbors were upset that we sold the house to a couple. She was Hispanic and he was black. And they caught one of the neighbors caught my wife. How dare you sell the house to them? We're selling a house. I mean, if we're, we don't care who it is. We don't care if it's a green alien. If they can pay the money that we're asking. There you go. That's who's you're right. That's who's gonna buy it. So, yeah, so I mean, I saw that in the city, and I was like, I don't know. I was a little, I wasn't surprised, but I was like, I guess you could say I was surprised that somebody actually articulated it out loud. So, real quick, getting back to your show. With Monday through Friday, next step show, Monday through Fridays, 12 to...
It's also on Saturday and Sundays at 9, by the way.
Right. They have the replays. 7
days a week.
Right. But it usually goes live 12 to 1 or 1200 to 1300 for you military folks on WISL. Where do you see the show going?
Oh, man. So we're on 6 stations now through WYSL, right? I'd love to be on 6 more stations. I'd love to see this show spread throughout the country. I think that the message that we share, isn't your typical message. I think is a little unique as far as how we present it and the discussions that we have. I believe talk radio allows opportunity for dialogue and clarifications, and that's kind of where I'm hoping my show can head. I've gotten a lot of requests. I think, off air I had mentioned I got a pretty long waiting list of guests that would like to come on, and I've been considering throwing a second hour on there. I just got to figure out how, like at a podcast version, similar to this, so that I can engage and have a different kind of conversation with some of our listeners. But the thing is that, I think my show, your show, Glenn Beck's, or any of the other shows that are on stations like or similar to WYSL are too critical for us to even consider us setting them aside. So as long as I can breathe and talk and well, pay the bill, and if anybody wants to sponsor the Next Step show, I mean, I'd appreciate that. I'm going to continue to do so. And I remind people, this isn't about me. This isn't about fame. You don't see me walking around with a chip on my shoulder talking about I'm some host, and, because I think the show is relatively well listened to these days, relatively popular. It's about engaging, which is why I don't have a problem, having other guest hosts on there. I don't have a problem with challenging or being challenged by callers or having Democrats on. I've had Democrats host my show, actually, because, it's so important, as I mentioned before, to find that balance within ourselves of faith, politics, and entrepreneurship. And so long as mainstream media continues to bamboozle us, continues to say, dumb things to black and brown and white, continues to preach unity while actually creating a divide and segregation, right? I see my show just going as far as it possibly can.
Yeah. Do you know Pat Gray?
I'm not familiar.
Pat Gray is part of the Blaze.
Okay.
And I subscribe to the Blaze, and I'm able to watch their shows. They have a live streaming portion of their platform, and Pat Gray has got a show on from our time, 7 in the morning until 9. And when he's done with his show, they have a podcast like you're talking about. They call it Overtime. So when you started talking about that, I was like, man, that sounds an awful lot like what Pat Gray likes to do. And sometimes Pat covers for Glenn Beck. And if you ever went on to do that, I mean, I think that would be it would be something good. I mean, you just promote it towards the towards the end of your show. Hey, don't forget, we got the overtime or whatever you would want to call it.
Absolutely. Bongino did that too. He had a pre-show show kind of stuff before he went on air. And that's actually kind of what gave me the idea. Excuse me, because I was trying to figure out how to get, more guests on. And I was watching. I'm like, wait a minute. That makes sense, try to figure out how to do it before the show, and then people can carry on over to the other show. But there's too many truths out there that aren't being shared, and there's not enough voice of liberties throughout this nation sharing it. So anything I can do as an individual to push that out, then I will do. I know Savage is doing his part, D'Angelo's doing his part.
Yes.
That's why I'll do my part.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's the one thing. How'd you like to listen to? And you kind of told me before we got in front of the mics that you had not heard Kamala Harris talk to Mr. Colbert.
Yeah.
So she was on Colbert Friday night. So Thursday night. That was a couple nights ago. So I have a couple of cuts here. The first one, it says Kamala on the Colbert Show about not running again. So let's take a listen to this.
You said you're going to sit this one out. Why are you sitting this out? Are you saving yourself for a different office that might be?
No. Recently, I made the decision that for now, I don't want to go back in the system. I think it's broken. And I always believed that as fragile as our democracy is, our systems would be strong enough to defend our most fundamental principles. And I think right now that they're not as strong as they need to be, and I just don't want to, for now, I don't want to go back in the system. I want to travel the country, I want to listen to people, I want to talk with people, and I don't want it to be transactional where I'm asking for their vote.
So, yeah. So my thing is, like she said, the system's broken. That's because she didn't win. That's because they mopped the floor with her.
Yeah, wasn't she like promoting that system and talking about how great that? Well, actually, the thing is, she is part of the system that broke the system.
Correct.
She was part of the system that prioritized personal growth when she was the attorney general in California.
California, yeah.
I mean, I think when people see, this is the bamboozleness that I'm talking about. This is why, our shows have to continue and continue strong, and why people like Kamala Harris and the buffoon and Hocus Pocus, all these people, that's why they all try to shut us down, right? And come, remember, Louise Slaughter was trying to set up that whole equal time thing where stations like ours, which is basically, like we talked about before in my show, the CCP sitting in offices like ours, right? Because they want to control the narrative.
Yep.
Donald Trump said in response to that interview that she wouldn't win if she ran again. She's horrible. She's horrible at speaking because she's not sincere, right? All she's trying to do, I mean, come on. See, this is where I want people to truly, you hear me talk a lot on my show, Fred, about discernment and emotional intelligence, right? I get, right, that she's appealing because she's darker skinned, because she may even appeal to a group of people, whatever. I mean, I don't know who she'd appeal to, because it's like, whoa, man, it scares me who's attracted to that. But the thing is, when she says things like that, the system is broken, when not even 8 months ago she was promoting it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
When she sits there and says, I don't want to go back into the system. And the problem is this, there should be no system. There should be a government that works for the people, and everybody is part of that. Right. She's, they create these, I think in TV they call it subliminal messaging or yes. in media, right? These things that they say that automatically segregate people. Yeah. Well, what's the thing that they say here in New York? People like the county clerk. Well, it's a systemic issue. I don't want to be back. She double speaks.
Yeah.
Confusing people. And listen, when they started talking in Washington about election integrity, what's the first thing she and others? Oh, all of us, it's going to disenfranchise black people. See, all the stuff they say, we got to listen so that we could hear it, discernment.
One of the things is, speaking of that, one of the best videos I've ever seen, it's on YouTube. And a guy went onto a college campus and walked up to a liberal college campus and walked up to white students and said, what's keeping black, why do you say like black people? Why can't they, why are they suppressed to vote? Well, they can't get an ID. They don't know an ID. If they had to have an ID. So the guy went to like the Bronx. He went to the inner city, and black people, he showed him the video. He said, here's a video. And this guy stood out. He was, I think he was a veteran because he was wearing an M65 jacket. And he shook his head and he goes, I've got an ID on me. And he says, oh, really? Can you show it to me? He pulls out his wallet and he goes, I don't own a car, but I have a driver's license. I know how to drive a car, but I don't own a car. He lives in a city. He didn't need one. So he showed the guy his ID, and he says, okay, what happens if you lose your wallet? How would you replace that? And he goes, okay, the street that we're on, I'd go down to the third traffic light, cross the street, make a left, and about the third building down is DMV. So I'd fill out whatever they needed for identification I'd have with me, and I'd get a new ID. So you don't have a hard time doing it. Oh, no. So like you said, it's a narrative that people create out of nowhere.
Yeah. Mira, Fred, I always say this, and I'll share it on your show. Si tú eres Latino, if you're black, brown, whatever, you should be super angry that yes. we live in a society that says, right, si tú eres negro, hispano, or any of that stuff, that you need government help. That is the biggest insult. As an Americano, as a veteran, Fred, just an individual who paid, and like, how dare you tell me that because I'm Hispanic, I need you? Get the hell. I'll tell you what, get out of my way, provide the resources that you do everybody else, let me leverage them. If I fall, then I'll ask for help.
Yeah.
Because people do need help. But and I see this in housing all the time. That's why they have the whole the whole woman minority owned business crap, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so the next question, the next cut that I have here is Kamala. She's asked by Colbert, who's in charge of the Democrat Party? Who heads it up? She couldn't answer. Listen to this.
Who's leading the Democratic Party? I'm just curious.
There are lots of leaders, and
There's generally a leader of the Democratic Party. You know, like, oh, that's the leader of the Democratic Party. Who comes to mind?
I think there are a lot of, I'm not going to go through names because then I'm going to leave somebody out and then I'm going to hear about it. But let me say this. I think it is a mistake for us who want to figure out how to get out and through this and get out of it to put it on the shoulders of any one person. It's really on all of our shoulders.
Can you say Buffoon Jr., as I refer to her once in a while? I mean, is that not the most non-answer, the most non-politician answer in the world? Listen, that just shows the lack of leadership, not just overall within a failing philosophy that they call the Democrat or the progressive Democrats, because I know some great Democrats. Well, I say that air quotes because it's kind of hard to believe in a philosophy like that and then call great. But I know why they're Democrats, but that's, because sometimes, especially in urban centers, if you can't win as a Republican, but that's a whole nother show because at times I'm like, you're not sticking to your values. But check this out, though, Fred. Check this out, right? I think what she showed in that statement alone, that we as Americans made the right choice in choosing a true leader to lead this country, because she does not have leadership skills. No. See, that was a great opportunity, and I'm sure this is why the interviewer asked the question. It would be an opportunity for her to say, you know what? In the absence of leadership, in this vacuum, I am going to lead until we find someone else. That's what you would expect from someone who just got off a presidential trail. Not some crap of, I'm going to piss off people, so I'm not going to say nothing, right? But that's what we have. But you know why I believe these people can't answer who's leading? It's because people like Mandami in New York City is what now is leading the Democrat Party.
Right.
And they can't accept it, but they can't fight it either.
Right. Right. No, it's 100% right.
That's what happens when you get your bolitas cut off and you can't, stand firm on your feet. Listen, no, the Democrat Party has a platform.
I'm starting to pick up some Spanish slang from you.
I haven't cussed. Just
Bolitas. I got to remember that. I call it the Farfignugan. I'm of German descent, so I call it the Farfignugans.
Farfignugans.
So the next thing I wanted to do, Harris, she put out a video promoting. She wrote a book, and I use that in quotation marks. She wrote a book, and the name of the book is 107 Days, referring to her run for president back in 2024. And this is just a little piece of that.
I believe there's value in sharing what I saw, what I learned, and what I know it will take to move forward. In writing this book, one truth kept coming back to me. Sometimes the fight takes a while, but I remain full of hope, and I remain clear-eyed. I will never stop fighting to make our country reflect the very best of its ideals, always on behalf of the people.
If you have a chance to see that video, you can tell she was reading from a cue card. Mm-hmm. You can tell. It wasn't, like you said, she's not genuine.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just, and that's...
You know what? I do look forward to reading her book for two reasons. One, because I want to see... I've heard a lot of great things about various AI tools that write books for you, and I have to assume that her book is going to be a product of something similar to that, right? Obviously carefully reviewed and so forth. The other thing is she said she was an author, not a governor, which is why she decided not to challenge Newsom Gruesome out of California. I mean, the guy is horrible. But again, that's another Mandami, just white. It's just really, that's what it is. So she knows she can't chat that because that's what's leading the party. But I encourage everybody who's listening to our shows to read that book, read Obama's book, read Clinton's book. We get into this cycle of, and listen, I cringe. I literally, listening to Cuomo throughout the whole COVID thing, I think I had to have a bucket next to me because I may get sick, right? But you have to. because these people reveal, right? They reveal who they are when you read some of their books. Obama's book was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
George W. Bush, the second one. Interesting stories he had in there. And the thing is, again, if you read it, you ask for discernment, you pray, you see who these people are. I believe Bush's, side note, Bush's whole big push in military, a lot of it has to do because of 9/11, because of and if you read his book, there's remorse in there. And people have remorse when they did things that they know they shouldn't have
done. Right.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, completely conspiracy. Yeah. But that's why I think people should.
I was on the ground the day, so September 13th. So September 11th happened. We had to travel on the 12th, which was very Twilight Zone-ish, because we convoyed down to New York City from Rochester, and there was nobody on the thruway. No, I have never seen it. It was like like a bomb had gone off. Not but it was like a nuclear thing type kind of.
I was in Hawaii for that.
Ooh,
traffic was not quiet in Hawaii that day.
Yeah,
actually, it took me 2.5 hours to get on post, and only because I was deemed essential. So I was able, the MPs were going through and pulling people out of the line, but they locked everything down. But listen, talk about America's quick reaction. Like, by the time I got notified at 3:42 in the morning, when my roommate woke me up, and when we got the call, we got to base relatively quickly, full battle rattle, ready to roll. By the time we got there, the 50 cals were already all over the place.
Yep.
Beaches were locked down, right? The ones that would be more likely to see something coming in.
Oh, that's my computer saying time.
Time's
so
flying.
we have. Let me go over here, as I always do on my handy dandy thing here. I think I want to get there it is. So I'm going to put another 3 minutes on here because that'll take us almost to the time. But yeah, no, you are 100% correct. I mean, I was at work. I worked for ADT at the time, Alarm Systems, and we covered the whole Northeast commercial. We started getting water flows out of Manhattan, Lower Manhattan. So we thought a water main had busted. It turns out all the water was being used by the First Trade Center trying to put out the fires. And they called, was it the Millennium Hotel? And the guy from the Millennium Hotel was just about crying to our operator, saying, the plane slammed into it, so on and so forth. From that, and I thought it was an accident. The guy had a heart attack or something, and the second plane hit. And I was like, my family didn't see me for about almost 3 weeks after that. So no, I understand that.
I stayed in that Millennium Hotel several months before that happened.
Did you really?
I mean, I remember looking out, at the World Trade Center area, thinking this is the coolest room that I've ever had.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the hotel stayed standing.
Yeah, the hotel. I don't know if it's still there. I don't know if it's under the same management.
I don't know. It's still, the building's there. I don't remember what it's called. I don't know if it's called the same thing or not.
Yeah, because it was. And then the other thing, because I have a brother and I have a cousin that my brother lives in Brooklyn. My cousin lived in Greenwich Village. So I knew like the Battery and all that place and all those folks, the places down there. So my commander from my National Guard unit, we were down there. We were doing whatever we had to do. And at one point he said, he kind of yells out, who here can get us around Manhattan? I raised my hand. Now, the only problem was that from the time that I had been there last to that time, they had changed, like, two-way streets had turned into one-way streets, that type of stuff. So he goes, well, we're looking for a faster way to get down to Ground Zero. So we were standing in the Javits Center, and the quickest way was to go up West Side Drive, and it was a clear shot. They had West Side Drive was shut off pretty much, and we would just shoot right up. So it was not even a full 10 minutes to get up there. So he had us go up to 11th Avenue, cut down 34th Street. And I'm like, wait a second. It's like a Friday at like 4 p.m. People were still doing their thing. I'm like, this is going to take us for like like an hour to get. Sure enough. So what do I see? I see the hatch pop up because I was in the, there was myself going from back. So you had one guy, it was a 4-man or a 4-vehicle convoy. So I was like second from then you had another guy here in front of me, which had the commander in it. Then you had another guy in front who kind of knew the area. So radio contact, he'd say, well, where do I go from here? I said, do this, make a right, make a left. I see the hatch pop, and I see the commander come up, and he starts taking pictures. And I'm like, that's why he wanted to do this. He wanted to take pictures of downtown Manhattan. Of
course.
So,
I worked for a general. He would do that kind of stuff. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is it. So what do you think?
I think you have an awesome platform, sir, and I want to thank you for taking the time. I mean, I go to a studio and do this, and I've got D'Angelo and I've got Savage to help me out and so forth. So kudos to you, and I think
thank you.
Your show should be listened to absolutely everywhere. So
thank you for coming. Thank you for driving out here and finding the place. I know you put the address in, and sometimes it'll take you to the church across the street, or it'll take you one of the neighbors. But no, you seem to have found it okay.
Yeah, my GPS took, but I'm familiar with the area somewhat. My brother used to live in Spencerport, General, so I have some idea. If I can encourage your listeners, though, to visit our website for the show, it is nextstepsshow.com, nextsteps with an S show.com. They can find all our previous shows on there. There's a link to WYSL's live. There's a link to, I have an online radio station where I have my shows replaying. I want everybody to know that we are in the midst of creating an app specifically to hear the show. So if you miss old ones, then you'll be able to just download my Next Step Show app, and that'll be coming out here shortly. I got a web-based one set up now.
Okay.
And we'll be working. So all that stuff's coming. So we're moving, we're shaking.
And you can still hear it on WYSL
every single day at noon.
You can listen to if you missed the show, you can listen to WYSL1040.com and click on the podcasts. This is how you find this show.
Yep.
You can click on the link that says podcast and just scroll through and you'll find it. So thank you so much for coming out.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. God bless you. God bless your home. God bless your listeners.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to have you I usually say, when I close out my shows, I usually say, well, keep your head up, your stick on the ice, and your skates moving, because that's how you get through this game we all call life.
Absolutely.
How do you close out your show?
I say, be a leader, be a leader, be a leader. God bless these United States of America. Y mira, don't let a segundo go by where you are not a voice for libertad.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Y'all take care. We'll talk to you later. Thank you so much for listening.
Appreciate that, Fred. That was fun.